Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita class. And we are very fortunate to have His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu from Iskcon, Atlanta. Thank you, Prabhu, for joining. And whenever you're ready, Prabhu, you can take over the class.
Hey, Krishna Prabhu. Did you see my message I just sent you?
Sorry, Prabhu, my sound was not in the right volume. Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, did you see the message I just sent? Mataji said she said the verse starts at 225.
Oh, 225? Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Om Vishnu Gadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Vitarani Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatavishtarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vedigadara Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So starting from verse 225. Sakshad Vrajendra Sutta Ite Nahid Ana Jeba Age Kare Tanre Pratima Hena Dhyana Sakshad Vrajendra Sutta Ite Nahi Ana Jeba agge kare tanre pratima hena gyana sakshat Rajendra Sutta ite nahi ana Jeba agge kare tanre pratima hena gyana. Vishnu Prabhu.
Sakshat Brajendra Sutta ite nahi ana jeba agye kore tanre pratimahina gyana.
Next.
Sakshat Brajendra Sutta ite nahi ana Jeva agne kare tanre pratimahena jnana. Hare.
Haribol. Anyone else? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, go ahead, Prabhu.
Sakshat Brajendra Sutta ite nahiana yeva agge kare tare pratima hena jana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Word for word, Sakshat directly, Brajendra Sutta, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Ite, in this matter, nahi, there is not. Ana, any exception. Jeba, whatever. Agge, a foolish person. Kare, does. Tanre, unto him. Pratima, hena, as a statue. Jnana, such a consideration. Translation. Without a doubt, he is directly the son of the king of Braja. Only a fool considers him a statue. Next verse, 226. Se aparade tar nahika nishtara gora nara kete pare ki baliba ar. Translation. For that offense, he cannot be liberated. Rather, he will fall into a terrible hellish condition. What more should I say? Report by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In his Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami has stated that those who are actually very serious about devotional service do not differentiate between the form of the Lord made of clay, metal, stone, or wood, and the original form of the Lord. In the material world, a person and his photograph, picture, or statue are different. But the statue of Lord Krishna and Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were not different because the Lord is absolute. What we call stone, wood, and metal are energies of the Supreme Lord, and energies are never separate from the energetic. As we have several times explained, no one can separate the sunshine energy from the energetic sun. Therefore, material energy may appear separate from the Lord, but transcendentally, it is not different from the Lord. The Lord can appear anywhere and everywhere because his diverse energies are distributed everywhere like sunshine. Therefore, understand whatever we see to be the energy of the Supreme Lord and should not differentiate between the Lord and his archa form, made from clay, metal, wood, paint, even if one has not developed this consciousness. One should accept it theoretically from the instructions of the spiritual master and should worship the archa murti, or form of the Lord in the temple, as non-different from the Lord. The Padma Purana specifically mentions that anyone who thinks the form of the Lord in the temple to be made of wood, stone, or metal is certainly in a hellish condition. Impersonalists are against the worship of the Lord's form in the temple, and there is even a group of people who pass as Hindus but condemn such worship. Their so-called acceptance of the Vedas has no meaning. For all the acharyas, even the impersonalist Sankaracharya, have recommended the worship of the transcendental form of the Lord. Impersonalists like Sankaracharya recommend the worship of 5 forms known as Panchopasana, which includes Lord Vishnu. Vaishnavas, however, worship the forms of Lord Vishnu in his varied manifestations, such as Radha Krishna. Lakshmi Narayana, Sita Rama, and Rukmini Krishna. Mayavadis admit that worship of the Lord's form is required in the beginning, but they think that in the end, everything is impersonal. Therefore, since they are ultimately against worship of the Lord's form, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described them as offenders. Srimad Bhagavatam has condemned those who think the body to be the self as bhauma idya di. Bhauma means earth, and idya di means worshiper. There are two kinds of bhauma idya of their birth, such as nationalists who make many sacrifices for the motherland, and those who condemn the worship of the form of the Lord. One should not worship the planet Earth or land of his birth, nor should one condemn the form of the Lord, which is manifested in metal or wood for our facility. Material things are also the energy of the Supreme Lord. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jananjanantalakaya Chaksu-militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stavitam yena bhutale Swam Rupagadabhmayam Dadate Swavadantikam. Hare Krishna. So, this is a very interesting purport that covers several different points for our discussion. And focusing on the fact that the Lord is everywhere. Prabhupada says in one place, Mayavadis say that the deity is not the Lord, but the Lord is everywhere. And then Prabhupada said very nicely, why not in the temple? Why not in the deity if he's everywhere? Because their philosophy is not complete. They have a difficult time conceiving of a particular form being the absolute personality of Godhead. Because in their mind, the absolute personality of Godhead must be without form. How can the Supreme have form? That is their misunderstanding. So here, Prabhupada begins with Bhakti-sandarbha Jiva Goswami, stating that those who are actually very serious about devotional service do not differentiate between the form of the Lord made of clay, metal, stone, or wood, and the original form of the Lord. As I read that earlier, I was thinking how we relate to different manifestations of the Lord. For instance, we see the deity in the temple, or we see a nice painting of the deity of the Lord. We have it on our phone. We have the page that you first see when you open your phone. You maybe have a deity picture or painting of Krishna. So if Krishna is not different from all these manifestations of his form as metal, clay, stone, wood, and Prabhupada also says as a painting, then we should relate to those manifestations in the same and equal way. And he's saying not to differentiate. That I go to the temple, I see the form of the Lord, I bow down, I show respect, but I might have a painting, like I have paintings here in my office, beautiful painting of Krishna and Radharani, beautiful. So how should I relate to these paintings or the little statues that we may have in our home? If they're Krishna, then what Prabhupada is saying is that they're non-different. And he's quoting from the Bhakti-sandarbha Jiva Goswami. Many devotees like to quote Jiva Goswami from his different books and writings. So here Srila Prabhupada is referring to him. This is actually a very good practice. Where Srila Prabhupada refers to the acharyas, we can also refer. We have to be a little careful when we go outside the purview of what Srila Prabhupada has said about the acharyas. And we ourselves try to comment on the writings of the acharyas. In other words, giving our commentary outside of what Prabhupada is saying. So Srila Prabhupada is referring right here to the Bhakti-sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. That those who are serious about devotional service do not differentiate between the form of the Lord made of clay, etc., etc. So we can take that advice from Srila Jiva Goswami, and we can meditate upon that and apply it to our devotional practice. But then he says, but the statue of Lord Krishna and Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are not different because the Lord is absolute. The Lord is so kind that considering that we cannot see him in his true form, he's allowing himself to be appreciated, worshiped in a form made of different material elements that we can see. But the point is, we have to focus that understanding that this form is not different from Krishna. And I found something very interesting in his purport where he said that two things. If one has not developed this consciousness, one should accept it theoretically from the instructions of the spiritual master and should worship the Archamurti or form of the Lord in the temple as non-different from the Lord. Many times when I'm afforded the opportunity to speak in a public forum, I realize that people cannot or do not at that point understand Krishna in the deity form or understand Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I would use this terminology. I would say, I'm only asking you to theoretically think of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the reason I do that is because if they can just put it in theory, not accepting, not believing, because it's difficult for us to tell people believe in Krishna when we ourselves are developing that faith in Krishna. So I give them a way they can see it theoretically, just so you can understand Krishna's words. Because when Krishna's saying in the Bhagavad Gita, surrender unto me, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all things come from me, I'm the basis of the spiritual and material, it'll be difficult, and I'm speaking to them, difficult for you to understand if you don't place him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because what man can say that? No man can say those things. So therefore people conclude Krishna is an ordinary person. But we give them a little elevation. Just think of him as a supreme person. So Prabhupada is saying it here in a different way. Even if one has not developed this consciousness that the Lord in his archer form is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, just, you should accept it theoretically. Now, actually, he's talking to us as well. You know, even if we don't fully understand that the deity is non-different from Krishna, at least theoretically. And then he said, from the instructions of the spiritual master, and you should worship the Archamurti, or form of the Lord in the temple, as non-different from the Lord. So we're not there yet, as they say in mundane world. You're not there yet. It's above our pay grade. But we can at least practice seeing the deity. And let me bring in one reference. I really love this one from the teachings of Lord Govinda. It's very, very nice. Let's see, here it is. And this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 25, verse 35. Yes. Vashanti te me ruchiranya yambha shanta. Vashana vaktra runa lochanani. Upani divyani vara pradani. Sakam vacham sprihaniyam vadanti. Oh, my mother, my devotees always see the smiling face of my form, with eyes like the rising morning sun. They like to see my various transcendental forms, which are all benevolent, and they also talk favorably with me. So I'm going to jump down to the second paragraph of the purport. There are many Shastric injunctions which give instructions for carving forms of the Lord. These forms are not material. If God is all-pervading, then he is also in the material elements. There's no doubt about it, but the atheists think otherwise, although they preach that everything is God. When they go to the temple and see the form of the Lord, they deny that he is God. According to their own theory, everything is God. Then why is the deity not God? Actually, they have no conception of God. The devotee's vision, however, is different. Their vision is smeared with love of God. As soon as they see the Lord in his different forms, the devotees become saturated with love. For they do not find any difference between the Lord and his form in the temple, as do the atheists. The smiling face of the deity in the temple is beheld by the devotees as transcendental and spiritual. And the decoration of the body of the Lord is very much appreciated by the devotees. And I want to comment on that one sentence, because from my first-hand experience of, well, two aspects. One is the practice that we had back in the day, the old days, of Sankirtan, where we would look at the deities in the morning and really focus in on their beautiful faces, their lotus feet, the beautiful outfits, the jewelry, everything about the deity. And then in the middle of the day on Sankirtan, we would stop at the airport and start talking to each other about what the deities were wearing that morning. What was the jewelry? What was the color? What was the style? And whatever Maya had been attacking us disappears like that. But on another point, one very dear devotee to me, very senior devotee, unfortunately was making comments minimizing this aspect of the deity dress. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is that you understand there's a difference here. So this devotee was saying that in one phrase, which really struck me very hard, it said, what respectable lady would wear so much jewelry? He was talking about Radharani. What respectable lady would wear clothes like that? We should not put so much jewelry. And my mind was just burning, because that had been my practice my whole life as a devotee, beautifully decorating the deities. And Prabhupada said one place, the more you decorate the deities, the more you become Krishna conscious, more your heart becomes purified. So to diminish that, or to decry that, or to modify that was just not acceptable in my mind. So he's saying here, and the decorations of the body of the Lord are very much appreciated by the devotees. And that's what struck me. It's appreciated by the devotees, not placed in some mundane conception. Oh, what would ladies wear? What? How do you compare ladies with Radharani? I hope you all follow. You can't do that. Of course, in the temple, we're worshiping the deities on more of a standard of Lakshmi Narayan, even though it's Radha Krishna. But it's so that our minds become attracted to the beauty. And the decorations on the body of the Lord is beautifying the decorations. They're not necessarily beautifying him. By it being on him, they're beautified. They're fortunate. And they glow and they sparkle and they just look so beautiful. And that is the mindset that we should have. He goes on, it is the duty of the spiritual master. Wow. It's the duty of the spiritual master to teach how to decorate the deity in the temple, how to cleanse the temple, and how to worship the deity. What is that verse in the Guruvastakam? Does anyone know the verse that this refers to? I'm checking.
Shri Vigraha Aradhana Nityanana.
Keep going. Shri
Vigraha Aradhana Nityanana Shringaratam. Okay.
Mandira Marjanada.
Marjanadu. Viktasya Bhaktam Shai.
Chanyunjatopi.
Vande
Gurusi. See, we respect our spiritual masters because they're teaching us. Oh, we're saying it right here. The duty of the spiritual master to teach how to decorate the deity in the temple. Shringar, decorating beautifully. Dhira Marjanada, cleansing the temple. I was so fortunate to be in Vrindavan. Prabhupada was giving the class. And he said, you worship the deity because you think here is Krishna, but you don't take care of the floor because you don't realize here is Krishna. And then the other day he said, every aspect of the temple is Krishna. Treat it with love and respect. So the spiritual master teaches us, guides us in how to decorate the deity in the temple, not how to take away the decorations, but to make them more nice for Krishna. The other night at our new Iskcon temple in Atlanta, we were looking at Prabhupada's clothing, and someone had brought some new clothing from India, and the color was a little bit interesting, very, very dark. So one devotee commented that the same clothing was in another temple, and Malati Prabhu saw that. She said, you cannot put Prabhupada in that. That's not proper. What are you doing? So we were looking at Prabhupada's dhoti and kurta, the one that he has, and it just looks so beautiful compared to this very kind of dark color. So even in decorating Prabhupada, we have to be careful. We should be so conscientious when we're dealing with the deity, Srila Prabhupada, and even with ourselves, with other devotees, how we interact with each other. And some of the things I was reading was saying about how devotees relish just talking about Krishna, talking about, again, his decorations, his clothing, his smile. I remember when Indrajunda Maharaj came to Atlanta for the first time at our Iskcon temple on Ponce de Leon, and he saw the Radharani, because we have Radha Krishna here, Radha Madan Mohan. And Radharani in Atlanta is somewhat different. I know everyone says that their deities are different, but she looks very, very sweet, very, very innocent, almost like a really young girl. So Maharaj was saying, "This is the most beautiful Radharani I've ever seen." And I was like shocked. Maharaj has been all over the world. He said, "This Radharani is the most beautiful Radharani I've ever seen." Wow, such appreciation. When we're before the deities, there should be exclusive vibrations to appreciate the deity in their room. You don't go to a person's house and just start talking about yourself. You say the house is beautiful, your kids are beautiful, your prasadam is great, you glorify them. So when we come to the temple, our business, the moment we come on that property of the temple, it's for Prabhupada's glory, it's for Krishna's glory. And the time that we're fortunate to be there, we should, as much as possible, try to appreciate the Lord. In another place I read, Prabhupada was saying that one can reveal his mind to the deities, but then he said, to clarify, but one has to be very advanced in Krishna consciousness. One can speak to the deity, but you should be advanced in Krishna consciousness. Of course, he was thinking, not that he was thinking, I can say what Prabhupada was thinking, but we can think in terms of Sakshi Gopal, okay? That the Brahmana, the two Brahmanas, in dealing with Sakshi Gopal, and the Brahmana told the Lord, "You have to be my witness." He's talking directly to the Lord, and the Lord is saying, "Okay, I'll go with you." No, he said, but how can a deity go anywhere? How can a deity walk anywhere? That was what the Lord said. And the Brahmin said to the Lord, "If you can talk, my Lord, then you can walk." So he's talking with the Lord in pure devotional service. So that is the idea, that we should communicate with the Lord, but we should work hard on our sadhana so that our purification comes, so we can relate to the Lord in the proper way. But I love this point, is the duty of the spiritual master. Again, who is the spiritual master? Prabhupada was saying in the lecture this morning, Yadi Deke Tade Kara Krishna Upadesh. But he specifically pointed to, if you're a householder, you can also be guru in your home. Preach to your family, preach to your wife, preach to your children. You're a guru. In that way, you become guru. So the spiritual master, we can say all of this responsibility falls on Srila Prabhupada, or all of this responsibility falls on your current Diksha Guru. Forgetting the fact that we should all become guru in our life and activities. What does it say in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3:21? Yad yad acharati shrestha. Whatever great man does, common men follow. Whatever standards he sets, by his exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So in that way, become guru. So then we teach, first of all, our family, and then as many people who are willing to learn how to worship Krishna properly, because the tendency is to speculate. I have the same tendency. I have to check myself. That's why I say many times that I check with Vishnu Vidar Prabhu, he checks with me, we go back and forth, just making sure we have the right idea about something. So in the worship of the deity, I made the big mistake of listening to the wrong information with regards to worshiping the deity, which I'll never make that mistake again. Because here is clearly saying, spiritual master teaches how to decorate the deity in the temple and how to cleanse the temple. And then the last part, there are different procedures and rules and regulations which are followed in temples of Vishnu. And devotees go there and see the deity, the Vigraha, and spiritually enjoy the form, because all the deities are benevolent. The devotees express this is what I was saying earlier, the devotees express their minds before the deity. And in many instances, the deity also gives answers. But one must be very elevated. One must be a very elevated devotee in order to be able to speak with the Supreme Lord. So we shouldn't take that cheaply, like a sahajas. Just stand there talking to the deities, but we're really not following, we're really not serving, not surrender to the spiritual master. But, I'm going to go talk to the deity. Okay, fine. But here it's saying one must be very elevated, a very elevated devotee. Sometimes the Lord informs the devotee through dreams. Wow. I was listening to Jayapataka Maharaj last night before going to bed. And he was saying that if you think of the spiritual master doing some nonsense thing, that's not the spiritual master. But if you dream of the spiritual master serving, doing something Krishna conscious, then your spiritual master came in your dream. So this is very interesting. Sometimes the Lord informs the devotee through dreams, and also the spiritual master can do the same. But that's not something to be taken cheaply. These exchanges of feelings between the deity and the devotee are not understandable by atheists, but actually the devotee enjoys them. Kapila Muni is explaining how the devotees see the decorated body and face of the deity and how they speak with him in devotional service. So let that soak in, this idea of decorating the deity, seeing the deity, glorifying the deity, realizing is none different from the Lord. Because you have to think like this, that if a very, very important person came into your presence, and especially when I'm at the temple and I'm dealing with a lot of the Indian community, I say, if Narendra Modi walked through that door, and I said it this past Sunday, what would you all do? And they were kind of like, I said, first of all, you would stand up, correct? And they, oh, yes, I would stand up. Why? Out of respect. Then I explained that Prabhupada taught us how to be respectful to respectable persons, whether it's a sannyasi or the president of the United States. So I put that in their minds to give them a point of reference. So if Krishna is God and the deity is God, Krishna, how should we act? Should we allow our children to run around in circles in front of the deities, standing back and think, oh, how cute is my little child? I'm being, facetious, but it's a fact that happens all the time in our temples, and the parents don't do anything. And then when the senior devotees try to correct them, the senior devotees are attacked in a lot of ways, verbally. Why are you talking to my child like that? Because you're in front of Krishna. Or sometimes, I remember once in the Atlanta temple, I was giving the Sunday lecture, and two temple managers were standing in the corner having a big conversation. And I said, Prabhu, can you please stop? So the one devotee became angry with me for the next 6 or 8 months because it was embarrassing. It is embarrassing. You're standing in the temple, Bhagavatam or discussions going on in front of the deities, and you're having a management conversation? Not good. So that's a lesson you should all learn. Don't do that in front of the deities. Don't have these, even management conversations about what are we going to do in the temple. No. Temple room is exclusively for the worship of the deities and Srila Prabhupada, and for the loving exchanges amongst the devotees. So I love this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, as a reference, 3rd canto, chapter 25, the glories of devotional service. You all go back and study that when you can. And Srila Prabhupada also referred to the Padma Purana. Arche Vishnu Siladir Guru Shu Nara Matir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. One who considers the Archamurti or worshipable deity of Lord Vishnu to be stone, the spiritual master to be an ordinary human being, and a Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste or creed, is possessed of hellish intelligence and is doomed. That's from that book, Dialectic Spiritualism. Prabhupada speaking in it doesn't give the date. Anyway, so that's a very strong instruction. One who considers the deity, one who considers the spiritual master, ordinary human being, and the Vaishnavas belonging to a particular caste or creed. Now that's a very important instruction. we say, oh, Bengali devotee, Gujarati devotee, black devotee, white devotee, on and on and on and on, relegating the Vaishnava to a particular caste or creed. Or in your own mind thinking, because I'm one of these particular caste or creeds, I'm better than the other one. No, not pointing anything out, but a lot of times from India, that mindset that the Westerners don't understand. And I've even heard that from Westerners who live in India, saying that because you don't live there, you don't understand. It's like very interesting. No, there's something, if I can find it really quick, what Srila Prabhupada said. Let me see if I have it there. Sorry, I can't find it. Yeah. It might be here in the Sri Shapanasad, where he says that this idea of the land of my birth, or the country that I'm born in, as worshipable. Where is that? Yes. It's from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 84, text 13. Yashatma buddhi kunape tridatuke so di kalatra dishu bhoma ijjati yatirtha buddhi salile nakarichij janeswa bigeshu sa eva gokar. Translation: one who identifies himself as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image of the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. So this worshiping our land of birth, and Prabhupada says in another place, the nationalistic concept, which is very prominent now. America, make America great, or India is great. The other day I was speaking at the Indian consulate, very beautiful program. They're doing a month-long celebration for Gita Jayanti, and they asked me to come and speak with some other local leaders. And so this idea of India and being born in India, so I quoted them the verse, Bharata Bhumitihaya Manusha Jamanyar Jamasata Karikara Parukar. Just being born in India is not enough. There's an advantage to being born there because the Shastras are coming from there, the Acharyas are coming from there, holy dhams and temples are there, very wonderful. But just because you're born there doesn't mean you yourself are more elevated than someone else. We have to be very, very careful. Like me, I'm born in America. So I could say, America, beautiful, America, the fantastic, I'm proud to be an American, that kind of thing. If I identify with this body, in which for many, many years prior to Krishna consciousness, I identified with being black. I remember in the 60s, late 60s, a term came out, black and I'm proud. And a song came out, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, because we had lost some of that pride or respect because of being, put down in many ways. I'm so sorry my voice went out. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, being proud, being servant of Srila Prabhupada, being proud of the literatures that we have access to, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a different pride. Not a pride in me, but a pride in the Lord, a pride in the Lord's devotees. Like I'm proud of all of you for spending your time to come here and hear this discussion on Krishna consciousness. So we can be proud of the Krishna conscious aspect, but don't be proud of your so-called body, land of birth. When I say that land of birth, I know it doesn't sound right in many people's mind, because India is the holy dham. Is the whole of India the dham? Bharata Bhumi is Bharata. So being born there, you're fortunate, but there are some practical aspects of that fortune. The sadhus, the acharyas came from there. Bhagavatam was developed or presented there. Many things that are wonderful. Temples of worship are there. But there's also Mayavadis and impersonalists and atheists, all kinds of things in India. So it's not just the land itself, but in the Dham, Vrindavan, Mayapur, Hardwar, Jagannath Puri, so many wonderful places. Why are they wonderful? Just going to take a bath there? Is that the great benefit? No. Prabhupada explains, and I believe there's a verse, I can't find it, maybe it's the same one, but not taking advantage of the saintly persons who were there. The saintly persons, by their presence, they're like Tirtha, what is it? Tirtha Kurvanti Tirthani. In other words, they are in themselves holy places. We go to the holy place, we travel to the holy place. But if we don't take advantage of the saintly persons who were there, or don't really understand the significance of what happened at that place, that's also like, that's not recommended. So let us not be too proud of our body. Let us not be too proud of the so-called place of birth, but we can be proud to have been blessed with the access to the knowledge that helps us understand the significance of these things, the Vaishnavas, the Dham, the spiritual master. So that was there. So there's a couple of other things I want to point out in the report. And Srila Prabhupada says, he talks about Sankaracharya. He says, impersonalists are against the worship of the Lord's form in the temple. And there is even a group of people who pass as Hindus but condemn such worship. Now, I'm not familiar with which group Srila Prabhupada is referring to. If anyone has any knowledge of that, I'm just not sure, so I can't speak to that point. But he's saying there's a group of so-called Hindus, but they condemn such a worship of the Lord, which is very interesting. Their so-called, and then he says, their so-called acceptance of the Vedas has no meaning. So people are very proud of having Vedic knowledge, translating books, they can speak Sanskrit, they can quote so many things. But if they don't understand the significance of the deities in the temple, then their so-called acceptance of the Vedas has no meaning, is what Prabhupada is saying. For all the acharyas, even the impersonalist Sankaracharya, have recommended the worship of the transcendental form of the Lord. So that, what I understand, refers to this verse. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudhamate, Samprapte, Sanite, Sanihite Kale, Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. You fools and rascals, all your grammatical word jugglery of suffixes, prefixes, and philosophical speculation will not save you at the time of death. Just worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. That's from Sankaracharya. So Srila Prabhupada is referring to that here. Sankaracharya have, for all the acharyas, even the impersonalist Sankaracharya, have recommended the worship of the transcendental form of the Lord. Beautiful, isn't it? And then one other point about the Mayavadis and impersonalists. Lord Chaitanya says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 17th chapter, verse 129, Prabhu kahe Mayavadi Krishne aparadi, Brahma Atma Chaitanya kahe niravadi. Translation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Therefore, they simply utter the words Brahman, Atma, Chaitanya, which means they're not able to say Krishna. They're so unfortunate they can't say Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya, in his Shikshastakam, Nadanam Nadanam Nasundarim Kavitam Bha Jagarisha Kamhe, Mama Jamani Jamanishware, Bhavatad Bhak. No, I'm sorry, not that. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sharva Shaktis. In that verse, he's saying that I'm so unfortunate. I have no attraction for your holy names. But the real unfortunate is the Mayavadis and impersonalists. They can't even say the holy names. We have a process of developing attraction for the holy name by sadhana and regular practice. Gradually, the desert-like tongue, as Rupa Goswami explains, becomes reawakened. That sweet taste of chanting the Lord's holy name reawakens. But the Mayavadis and impersonalists are so unfortunate, they can't even say the holy names. They can't even say Hare Krishna properly. So that was a nice verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in essence, or in conclusion here, I actually wanted to tell two quick little stories, then we'll conclude, about appreciating the Lord as a person. And two incidences, one with my granddaughter. I brought her to the temple for her 9th birthday. She was only 9 years old. And my wife made a cake for her. And we were in my office at the temple. I was temple president then. We had a nice little appreciation for her. So then we went in front of Radha Madan Mohan to take a picture, family picture. Of course, we didn't have our backs to the deities. So my granddaughter looked at the deities and she said, Grandpa, she had her cake with her. Grandpa, can I give them some of my cake? I went, what? She's looking at quote unquote stone deities and thinking of them as persons. Grandpa, can I give them some of my cake? I was like so happy, so happy. The other incident happened years ago. We used to bring children from the inner city to the temple during the Christmas time. We give them little gifts and we give them prasadam and we spent time with them. So we took a group picture with this, probably about 30 kids, and there are two directors that came with them. They were from, at that time, the most dangerous community in Atlanta, if not even the whole Southeast. And I'm not exaggerating. Most dangerous. It's been documented on TV and video, this particular neighborhood. I forget the name right now. So this lady who was taking care of the kids, very wonderful African-American lady, she kept looking at Lord Jagannath. We were trying to take the picture, but she kept turning around. He said, okay, one. She kept turning around. Then she said in a beautiful little voice, he is so beautiful. Now, can you imagine that? Coming from a very dangerous community, having to deal with all that negativity, and coming before Lord Jagannath for the first time in her life and saying, he, how in the world does she see that Lord Jagannath as a he? Think about that. I mean, you look at the deities, the Jagannath deities. I mean, most people would say, I don't know what that is. She said, he is so beautiful. What about us? When we walk in the temple, immediately see the beauty of the deities. Don't look for your friends and this. No. See the beauty of the deities. See their beautiful smiling face. Offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Like when I come to our new temple, I mention that place a lot of the kids, they really like to hang out with me and they come over and try to grab me and I point to the floor. I say, have you offered obeisances to Prabhupada? Don't touch me yet, okay? Then we all get down and offer obeisances. Then I take them over to the deities and see the deities. It's just a wonderful experience. So we should focus our attention on the Lord. He's there. That deity form is Krishna. That's the essence of what we're talking about here today. Non-different. If the deity is non-different from Krishna, and if by some chance you were in front of the moving Krishna playing his flute, like Rupa Goswami says, the perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest of Vrindavan. So if you would be in that presence of the Lord, how would you act? Hey, there he is, Parikshit. How do you go, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances.
Smiling face of Parikshit, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sorry to interrupt. No, just checking my video.
Thank you for blessing me by your presence.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Prabhupada.
There you go. Now, when we come before the Lord, you got to keep these things in mind. This is God. Prabhupada said one time that be careful when you're dealing with the deities, you're dealing with God, which means you got to think, God, what does that mean? I know when I went to Chicago in '74 to get initiated from Prabhupada, I didn't really have a point of reference about Guru. I mean, of course, I've been a devotee for like 7 or 8 months at that time, but how much would I know at that point? So I was trying to get a point of reference, how to see Prabhupada. So in my mind, you know what I thought? I remember I was in the van, we drove to Chicago. I was thinking, I'm going to see a man that comes from the same God that my mother taught me about. That put it in perspective. Because my mother taught me about God. I used to go to church a little bit as a kid, but I had an understanding God is, the source of the world and all that. So I put Prabhupada in that perspective that he comes from that God. That's who I'm going to see. So when I was in his presence, it was thinking that this person came from God, directly from God. Here I am near this person. My mind was I was very happy, to be honest with you, very happy, very blissful and just respectful seeing Prabhupada. Because some of Prabhupada's disciples, not many, but some of them began to see him as an ordinary person from India, scholar, this and that. And then they start to see themselves because they knew a little bit about Sanskrit or seeing themselves equal to Prabhupada. Or in some cases, because Prabhupada's from India, he didn't know, we know better. Very dangerous. So that, that sloka I quoted earlier, seeing the spiritual master and the deity in an ordinary way it's like a hellish consciousness. So let us practice. The opportunity of deity worship is a chance to practice showing deep love and affection for Krishna, appreciating his beautiful forms, bowing down at his lotus feet with great respect. Don't misuse the opportunity that's afforded to us by having temples and turn them into, as Prabhupada said, place for lazy and crazies. He didn't want that. Temple is a place to develop Krishna consciousness, and the association of devotees is for the same purpose, to increase and enhance our Krishna consciousness. Who knows this verse in Bhagavad Gita? I can never remember the whole one. Machita magata prana. Who knows that verse? Help me out. Anyone?
Majjita madgata prana bodhiyanta parasparam katiyantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha.
And Vishnu Guru, tell a little bit about that tushanti cha ramanti cha part of it.
They're always talking and they take great satisfaction and bliss enlightening one another and conversing about me.
You just gave me bliss by just saying that. It's like, that's it. Tushanti cha ramanti cha. That's where our happiness is. Our happiness is not analyzing the political environment of the world right now, because it is a mess. Okay, there's no way you can cut that any other way. It's just a hellish mess. So what benefit? Last night I saw a devotee's post on Facebook, something about the political thing and this and that. And another devotee said, well, why are you wasting your time with this? Why? We should be talking about Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. So keep that in your mind. Tushanti cha ramanti cha. You want to be happy? Converse, enlighten each other about Krishna consciousness. This little class we have, the time we have with each other, we should walk away at least by being in each other's presence, inspired by that. Whether what I said made a lot of sense or not, okay, fine. But just the fact that we're here with each other is so important. So I'm going to stop there because I would love to hear some feedback. I think I wrote down one more thing. Yes, we should not hesitate to explain to people that we worship the deity as none different from the Supreme Lord. And that means like when you're outside in the public, when you kirtan outside, or like if you're on some stage doing kirtan, but you don't explain who Krishna really is. You have to explain it. I remember I gave a class one time on traveling Sankirtan at a state park. We always had Bhagavatam class. So these hikers were walking by and they sat down for the class and I gave my little speech, right? And my senior godbrother, the Sankirtan leader, said, "You idiot." He said, "You didn't even mention the holy name. What kind of class was that?" Wow. It was like, it woke me up, that we should take the opportunity of any public forum, any opportunity to glorify the Lord as the Supreme Lord, and especially the deity. People have no idea why we worship the idols on the altar, they call them. Even the Hindus don't quite get it all the time. This is Krishna, this is God. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. I mean, such a beautiful class, as always. And personally, I was having goosebumps, that how much I am missing. Every week I go to temple, but am I in the right consciousness? It's hitting me hard. Thank you for the wake-up call. And I see His Grace Vishnu Gada Prabhu has a hand raised. Please, Prabhu, go ahead. Please accept my humble obeisances. All praise to Srila Prabhu.
Thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Thank you, Vishnu Prabhu, for being here. Thank you.
You were talking about the decoration of the deities and how the decoration of the deities, actually, the Lord Krishna makes the ornaments, beautifies the ornaments, because he's, we decorate the deities. And in Mother Yamuna's biography, or they call it the Life of Pure Devotion, I think, she specifically mentions that when she was trained in dressing the deities by Srila Prabhupada in London at John Lennon's estate, that she was doing it in a certain way, but Srila Prabhupada showed her in a different way. And she said that she noticed that the way that Srila Prabhupada showed her to dress and ornament the deities made it obvious that Krishna was the center, and that he was beautifying the ornaments and dress, just as you said. So that's a very interesting point. And just as there's a book that she wrote called the study of, or her notes from that training, Yamunā Devi, the study of Seva Puja. You can get it from Krishna.com, I believe. But anyway, that was an interesting point, following your point there about that. Then you mentioned about how there are different Hindu groups that decry the worship of the deities. And one famous group, they're from Bengal, there was one person, and then his disciple came to the United States and spoke at the World Conference of Religion in Chicago in 1893. But he gave so many different slogans. For example, better worship eggplant than tulsi plant.
I heard that.
Another one he said to us, another one of us was, smash the idols and worship the living God. That's another one of his slogans. Smash the idols and worship the living God. So they were definitely against deity worship. But if you go into one of they have their places of, what do they call them, centers. Yeah. And if you go in there, they don't have any deities, but guess who's on the altar?
Who's that? That person?
That person, yeah. So they got rid of the deities and they put him on the altar. Then there's another group that's similar. They say that they're the real Vedic way because they don't follow the Puranas, they don't accept the Puranas or the itihasas, etc. And so they only do fire sacrifice. And so they have a story behind it, because their founder, who was in the middle of the 19th century, he was going to a Shiva temple. And as a young boy, he was fascinated with the temple. So on Shiva Ratri, he was there. They didn't realize it, but he stayed all night at the temple, even though the pujaris left and locked the door. But he was there in the temple all night when he was a kid. And in the middle of the night, he saw how on the altar there were some laddus that they left on the altar. And in the middle of the night, some mice or rats came and started to eat the laddus on the altar. You've heard this before?
I'm enjoying hearing it now. Go ahead.
Anyway, so then that inspired him, saying, what kind of God is this that can't even keep his laddus from getting eaten by mice and rats.
Oh,
Of course, we would have a different view, and that is that the pujaris didn't do their job, didn't do their service, isn't it? So yeah, anyway, those are interesting points. So they decry anybody who does deity worship also. Although as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, even Shankaracharya, who they emulate, he worshipped the 5 kinds of deities.
Yeah.
But a question I had in thinking about this was, we say that Krishna, Prabhupada said that Krishna and his form are the same. There's nothing different. He's there present as his deity form. Are the forms of demigods, if you have a form of Ganapati, are they the same as their form, or are they different? Because, you follow the question?
Yeah, I follow the question, actually. I don't know if I have a clear answer, but the subject matter is that the Supreme Lord is everywhere, not that the demigods are everywhere. To me, that's the distinction, that in reference to what we're reading today, and in reference to the Archamurti, is that the Supreme Lord is all-pervading everywhere, like the sunshine, and he's therefore in the deity, in the temple, none different. Whether the demigods, they're not all-pervading. They have their own specific areas of responsibilities, although Brahma is the creator, Shiva is the destroyer, so on and so forth. So I don't have a reference stating that the demigods are in their deity, except that one pastime in the 5th canto, when the dacoits were trying to sacrifice Jud Bharat in front of the deity. Kali, was it Kali? I think Kali, right? And then she and her cohorts burst forth from the deity and killed those dacoits. I hope I'm remembering it correctly. It's in the 5th.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So that is an incident. Whether she was always there or came there as temporary, I don't know, but that's the reference that I can remember in that circumstance. I can't think of another one like that.
Okay. And there's the verse you quoted from the Padma Purana about Arche Vishnu Shiladir Gurushu Naramatir. Yeah. So that says the last word is Jati Buddhi. And there's another verse that goes, Je bhaje she boro abhaktahin char Krishna bhajananahi jati kulari bichar. That in dealing with Vaishnavas, you don't consider jati, kuladi, or family. Jati means birth, birth or caste. Sometimes it's translated caste. So in one place I found that Srila Prabhupada translated it birth, your birth. So would that include if you consider a Vaishnava according to their being a man or a woman?
Yes, in my understanding, yes. Of course, we have to see differences for practical purposes in life, but Vaishnava, because we're spirit soul, we're neither male or female necessarily, we're spirit soul. So we're supposed to see each other as spirit souls, but for practical purposes, you have to see the man, the woman, that type of thing. Prabhupada said in one lecture I heard, we were in Berkeley, heard this lecture, and Prabhupada said, for the man, woman is woman. For the woman, man is woman. And he clarified by saying the object of enjoyment. So it's just this male, female, but the spirit soul is transcendental to the male or female. So that's my simple understanding on that.
So when we're talking about that, when they say, if you see them as ordinary, or if you regard them in terms of their birth or their caste or their family, that could be understood to mean if you're going to discriminate or see them as lower or somehow inferior on those category because they're part of that category. I remember maybe you remember this, there was a book written by Srivatsava Goswami, who was the Radha Raman Pujari, head person of the Radha Raman temple in Vrindavan, scholar from the Gopal Bhatta Goswami Sampradaya. And he was, in his book, he was talking about American Vaishnavas, European Vaishnavas, and like that. And I was taking it, initially I was very resistant to thinking, oh, we're not supposed to think of Vaishnavas in terms of American, Indian, blah, blah, blah. But then I stepped back and I thought, well, yeah, but he's not criticizing the American Vaishnavas, because they're American. And so he makes certain observations in that way, which were very valid. So I could appreciate it after getting through that. And so the main point, at least I'm putting forth this understanding. What do you think? That the main point of that is, if you're seeing it in those terms, man, woman, American, Indian, from low class family or rich family, because if you want to restrict or denigrate or to discriminate against them, that's the main point.
No, that's a good point.
Or is it just to see it at all?
I mean, that's a very good point, because Srila Prabhupada always referred to his American disciples, his female disciples, children, like that, but in a very loving way, not like you gave the right word, not a discriminatory way. Black devotee, white devotee, man, not like that. But Prabhupada, he used them in his preaching. See all my American disciples, or see all my female disciples. I have disciples in Africa, all these different things he would say, but you can't even imagine Prabhupada discriminating against them, looking down on them, but actually, as you're saying, amplifying, lifting up. Just see all these nice Americans become Krishna conscious. Look, all these nice ladies they were hippies before, they were dirty before. Now look. So he used it in a wonderful way. And I think we should follow that example. I say it very honestly from my heart. I don't see black and white and Indian when I'm with devotees. It just like disappears for some reason. I've been watching my own consciousness for years. It's like, it's just not there. Until someone drags me into a material conversation, then, oh, there it is. But amongst devotees, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I mean,
sometimes people make comments or judgments that, there are too many Indian devotees in Iskcon, or there's a Hinduization of Iskcon.
Yeah.
And what would your take be on that?
I think it's a fool's paradise. I had the awakening in Houston many years ago at a GBC president's meeting. I had the great fortune of staying in the home, for the few days we were there, with Shyam Sundar Prabhu, who has an Indian body, who was the president. I went there with this kind of mindset, Indian devotees, I don't know how dedicated they are to Prabhupada, really, kind of stupid attitude, right? After being in his presence and those devotees there, I was completely blown away, because that was one of the first temples that became primarily, Indian origin devotees, more or less. Not Alachua, not it. It was in Houston, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj attracted a large contingent of people from India. And those devotees were so fired up. My mindset changed 1,000,000%. It was like amazing. Seeing some old lady on a Saturday morning coming there to clean the temple, I was like, wow. So since that time, I've realized that it's not about the body, not at all. It's about the attitude. Rupa Goswami says, advancement in devotional service is dependent upon the attitude of the practitioner. So interacting with each other depends on our attitude. We can see the differences for practical purposes, but we should have the intelligence to realize we're not the body. First lesson of Bhagavad Gita. So to your point, Vishnu Prabhu, I think it's ecstatic. As long as the devotees, whether they're Indian, American, black, or white, are dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, I am ecstatic. But when they're not, and when sometimes people try to see themselves even maybe close to Prabhupada or equal to Prabhupada, then I'm thinking, whether you're Indian or American, you're nonsense. Okay, so let's not be nonsense. Let's be Vaishnavas and see each other with great love. That one statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't remember the whole pastime. It goes something like this: just see the behavior of my Bengali devotees. There's some phrase like that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I just found it very humorous when I read that years ago. Just see the mentality of the behavior of the Bengali devotees, something like that. But the Bengali devotees, the ones who are dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, are some of the most wonderful people in the world. The Black devotees who are dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, some of the most wonderful people in the world. The Chinese, there's this group of Chinese devotees, maybe it's Japan, they go on hari-tanum, and the lady plays a ukulele. The most beautiful kirtans. I mean, I just can't believe how beautiful those kirtans are. Yesterday, I saw a kirtan in Africa. This little kid playing one of those new style madongas. And he's just dressed up beautifully like an African prince, whatever. He's just playing the madonga, and they're all chanting and dancing. So what is that? So too many Black devotees, too many white devotees, too many Indian devotees. I think it's a foolish conversation, but there may be some practical aspects of it. For instance, changing the standard of deity worship, quote unquote, to accommodate the quote unquote Indian community, changing the kirtan in a different way. All those kinds of influences have to just be careful. But having more devotees from India, because the verse says, Bharata Bhumide Hayil Manusa Jamaya Jamasata Kari Parupakar, make your life perfect if you're born in India. And then give Krishna consciousness, spread it everywhere. So we should be happy that there are so many Indian devotees, quote unquote, Indian body devotees, coming to push this movement forward. Last point, and everyone has analyzed, not everyone, but many devotees have analyzed this point, that when Iskcon was somewhat going down a little bit, that the influx of Indian devotees into America, in one sense, have saved the temples, at least financially, and in many ways, physically, by deity worship and cooking and all that. So we shouldn't decry it. I think we should welcome it. But it's a good thing that we should discuss it as you're doing Vishnu Gadata, because I also get off track sometime on that point. But we should be reminded, all Vaishnavas are Vaishnavas. It's not a question of the body.
You mentioned a point, you had your point of, you were speaking and the Sankirtan leader said, you got to mention Krishna, you got to mention the holy name. So it's interesting that in the description of Srila Prabhupada going on programs in London, he made a diagram of how they wanted to do the program at, I think it was Conway Hall in London. And he had a diagram, and on the one part, this is where the devotees sit, this is where Srila Prabhupada sits, this is where the harmonium is, who's the leader. And then he had a separate section on the side for the deities. They brought the little Radha Krishna deities with them on the for the program. Not the Jagannath, big Jagannath deities, but the Vijay Vigraha, little Radha Krishna deities, and he had it there on his diagram. So we're not shy about presenting Krishna. Not that you're going to do that in every circumstance, but certainly he was, as you mentioned, he was promoting people getting the opportunity to see Radha Krishna and to worship and chant for Radha Krishna there. Yeah. You also made another point. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
You also made another point about in the temple, the kids running around. I think that happens in a lot of temples. Yeah.
It really does.
But there's one thing that's changed, at least in my experience, dramatically in Iskcon of today versus Iskcon of the earlier, during Srila Prabhupada's presence, was in temples. We hardly, at least in New York, I can't say in other places, but at least in New York, we didn't talk in the temple room.
Right.
There was almost never. If you wanted to talk, you had to say something, even if it was some preaching stuff, even if it was, related to Krishna, you tap the person on the shoulder. Can we, and give us kind of a motion. Can we speak outside? Yeah. And then you go outside and carry on your conversation. And I'm not saying that you can't ever talk in the temple or anything like that, but the result was that the atmosphere and environment in the temple room was very, very sacred. Because there was so much the silence, or the silence of any unnecessary talk or unnecessary sounds was not there. So you could really focus on the deities, or focus on the having darshan, or they're having your darshan of, you're being able to see them, and hearing any the holy names and things like that. So that was the first time I went to India, 1975, because I really wanted to study how things are in India. Well, this is going to contradict what I said before about India, but anyway, it's how things are in India. Because I thought, well, in India things are really that's going to be really something really good. It's going to I got to learn from how things are done in India. So you go to India, and in the temple room, everybody's talking. Everybody's talking.
Yeah.
I mean, in this Iskcon temple rooms, I mean, we got Indian people, but so I realized that this is something that was instituted specifically by, through Srila Prabhupada's influence. That the silence, no unnecessary talk, or not unnecessary talk in the temple room, was something that was very pertinent for Iskcon, but not necessarily in other temples anywhere.
Excellent. And Prabhupada's teaching us from Rupa Goswami's Nectar Devotion, one should not speak before the deities, loud before the deities. And also on the altar, pujari should not be talking. So we have the responsibility, meaning those of us who are practicing sincerely, to pass that information on to the next person. In that way, become a guru. Don't wait for the big guru to come, big sannyasis to come, big temple leaders to come. Each one of us be a guru. If a person's doing something wrong in the temple room, you can just tap them on the shoulder and say, Like sometimes the kids are running with their little shoes on, and the parents are so excited. Then the buddy says, Mataji, please, no shoes, okay? The people depend on us to guide them. Last story, there's too many stories. I went to my granddaughter's christening at her church, and my wife and I were there. And I was outside trying to get the attention of my wife to come, it's time to go. And I opened the door, and what they call deacons or whoever who stand by the door, the person pushed the door closed and did like that. Don't disturb the programming. I was so impressed. I mean, I'm a brand new person. They never saw me before, but they don't allow it in their place while the service is going on. We should follow those good examples. While the temple service is going on, should be silent, pin silence. Last point, Hridayananda said one time, he said, you want to understand how you should sit in class? He pointed to the picture on the Bhagavatam. I see the Bhagavatam behind Prabhuji, that cover. When Prikṣiṣṭhās Maharaj is there, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking, pin silence. You don't see lips moving and people looking at each other. It's just, so that's how we should be in the temple. So I'll stop there. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. I mean, I think very, very useful, very practical discussion today. And I think there is a lot of action items as our temple also we can take from today's class. One quick question, Prabhu, is I always knew these instructions from Rupa Goswami and other scriptures, we should be very silent in the temple room. But we know it is not followed. How to deal with this situation in our home programs, when we do Bhakti Vriksha programs or Namhata programs, when we put deities on the altar and everybody is just having fun.
In the class, in the discussion, bring it up. That's what we're there for. We're there to guide them. Whatever a great man does, common men follow. Not that we think everybody is common, but our job when we go to these programs is to explain to people. If we see something, but it's, you have to be careful, okay? You don't just go to a brand new program and start correcting everybody, but you find a nice way. Krishna will give the intelligence how to help these people, because that is our job. We're there to set the example. We're there to guide them in the best way possible. This past weekend, I spoke at the Indian consulate. There's probably about 60 people there, all from India. And the consul general was there. Good, I know him very well. And I just asked the people, because I know they don't understand the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. I said, what is the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita? And of course, Dharma, this, that. So I gave them some information from Bhagavad Gita with the verse, with the number, Dehi knows many dialects. And they really appreciated that. They appreciate when you, so one man came to me and said, how do you know all this Sanskrit? How do you know all these things? I've been doing it for 52 years. I better know something. They go, oh, I can understand. So that is our responsibility. Guide them, recognize maybe they don't understand how to function in front of the deities, and in a loving way, try to explain to them. You know, you can put up these little signs, says no pictures, no talking, no this, no that, you know, fine. But really, really, really trying to guide the people, educate. And practically for the temple, you need to have some Ishtagoshtis with the congregation, where you can discuss these things with the Shastra in front of you, with Prabhupada's references in front of you, kind of like what we do in this class. This class has become like an Ishtagoshti in a sense, right? It's advisable in a temple community to have regular, at least 4 times a year, every 3 months, every 2 months, whatever, sit with the congregation and, you know, point out the things that need to be discussed. But whatever you point out, you got to have references to support it. We had a problem years ago with the GBC. They would make resolutions without any reference to Shastra. And the temple president says, we're not going to follow you anymore. Unless you can show where Prabhupada confirmed this, we're just not going to do it. Now they make it a point. So in the temple, that's a very practical way to do it. Bring the congregation together and then explain to them that now your job is to share with other people who come to the temple. Oh, but I'm not initiated. You don't have to be. You don't have to be initiated to let someone know, don't wear shoes, don't do this, don't talk. Because even now, when a lot of people come together in the temple, becomes a social event, not good. And our second generation devotees they really need some training in this area. It's not like, oh, we're all young, we're all going to hang out together, man. This is great. Let's have some fun. Sorry, that's not it. Okay. Try to, you know, everyone become a guru in that sense, as Lord Chaitanya said. Let everyone know about Krishna, and that way you become guru.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And thank you, Vishnupada Prabhu, also for bringing these points. Otherwise, these small things turn up into a lot of seva prats. We don't want to come into.
One thing to remember, I should have said is, you know, when the curtain or the doors are open, it's not exactly the same as when they're closed. If they're closed, at least what I've heard from my seniors in Iskcon is that when the deity doors are closed, it's the deities in another room. Yeah. But it's not quite as strict in that case, but especially when the deity doors are open, or the curtains are open, that's when the utmost care should be used to maximize the environment for Krishna service.
You know, Charadeshna, our dear godbrother, Vishnupada Prabhu, he taught us years ago. He said the curtains were closed and he was giving class. You don't think that Krishna is not having his pastimes on the altar when the curtains are closed. Krishna's dancing with this. I was like, never thought of that. We close the curtains, Krishna's just gone. No, he's still there. So what I've been trained in terms of when the curtains are closed in the temple room, you do not talk loud. I mean, of course you can have conversation. You don't talk loud because the Lord can hear you. I mean, he can actually hear you. So as a brahmachari, we had our ashram was above Prabhupada's area in the temple. And you can hear the footsteps moving up and down the hallway. So our temple president said, don't you realize you're disturbing Prabhupada downstairs? Walk nicely. Then when I looked at the Bhagavad Gita where it says one who's transcendental in consciousness, how does he sit? How does he walk? It just all made sense. You should walk nicely. Don't disturb. So in the temple room, how should you talk when the curtains are closed? What to speak of when they're open, but when they're closed. It's still Krishna's room. And you still have to be respectful. But again, you can, like Vishnupada is saying, you can have a little bit of conversation, but don't, you know, anyway.
Thank you again. I cannot thank both of you enough today. I don't know how much you have spoken of me, myself at least. I can talk about myself. And I will make sure at least some changes are at least happening in my behavior when I go to temple or on the altar next time. Thank you for that wonderful feedback.
And I want to thank Sarvanga Sundar Damodar Prabhu, came on cameras, giving us a smile, encouraging us. Thank you, Prabhu.
I know because he's equally excited as myself by hearing all this feedback.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, all the devotees, and we'll see all of you tomorrow morning. Thank you again, His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu, and we'll see you hopefully soon next week.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Pancha-
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Prabhupada ki jai.
Vajjakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo eva cha patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Haribo.